Welcome in everybody to this edition of Valpo Football Weekly, sponsored by Regional Federal Credit Union. Brandon Vickery with you. Glad to be joined by the head coach of the Valpo football team, Landon Fox, as we look ahead to the homecoming game. But first we look back at this past week against Truman State. And Coach, you're 0-3 through 3 games, but I know you've talked about it's about where you're going and not where you're at right now. Before we just get into what needs to improve, just what's the general message to the team at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, Brandon. It's just the process and trust in the process. And eliminating the scoreboard, because you can't control the controllables. Like, you can't necessarily control the score in terms of just being able to play that play and executing one play at a time, and more so than worrying about wins and losses. You got to, win the play, and we got to win more plays than we lose, and that's what our focus needs to be on.
Let's talk about what's happening in the quarterback position. You played 4 quarterbacks on Saturday. Where do things stand going into this week?
Yeah, I always think the quarterback position is funny because they get way too much credit when things go well, and they get way too much criticism when things don't go right. So it's everybody wants to know what's going on with the quarterback. And I always it's interesting. I always just see them as any other position. And so if you're not executing at a high level or the expectations of the program, then why shouldn't the next guy get an opportunity? And I just didn't think Chris did that early in the game. Some of the things that we were asking him to do. So you give another guy an opportunity, and Joe came in and did some things well, but at the same time turned the ball over. And when you turn the ball over, you're always going to struggle to win football games. And Jimmy came in, saw his first action of the year, and was excited to see him in there. And just because a lot of the adversity that he's gone through with some injuries and stuff, but was able to make some things happen and ran the offense very well. And then we had an opportunity late in the game to get Ben Nims in.
You mentioned it's 11 guys out there on offense. Just what do you have to do overall from an offensive standpoint to improve on things going forward?
Well, first of all, we need to play at a faster speed, and not in terms of the number of plays. It's just our ability to play fast, know what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to do it. And that does start with our coaching staff and putting a plan together that these guys know, they understand, so that they can go out and execute. But when we do go out there, we have to execute at a fast speed. And then I think the thing that probably frustrates me the most is when you as a coach, you want to see, how are you developing? And in Eastern Kentucky, we're able to do some things offensively. We did some things well. And then you go to Central Connecticut, and we're able to move the ball. And then we took a step back offensively, and so that's the frustrating part. And it's not only for coaches, the players as well. And we did that, I think, in special teams and on offense. And so we want to continue just to take a step forward each and every game.
On paper, it was harder to evaluate the defense, at least for me, because 21 of the points, over half the points in the game, were given up on special teams or scored by the defense of Truman State. So how do you evaluate the defense on Saturday?
Yeah, the encouraging thing, here's what I told the guys. If you watched our games and you see, all right, Eastern Kentucky, we played well in 6-7 plays in a row. Well, Central Connecticut State, we went 10-12 at times. And then in Truman, I'd even say our glimpses are getting longer. And so if we can continue to sustain that and put even, we can have our ability to play for 80 plays, and we're going to have success. Anytime you give up big plays, we gave up the big play there at the start of the game, you're going to continue to struggle.
Let's talk about homecoming week. It's always a special week on a campus. A lot of alumni and fans will be out on Saturday. Just maybe what makes it extra special? What's the significance of making sure you put together a good showing this week?
Yeah, we always want to play well. I mean, so that has nothing to do with homecoming, but what it does do is it brings some of the former players, in the past, and that's very important to me and to the program, is to link the past to the present, and for those guys to come back, and it's the legacy that we want to leave, right? And so I talked to the players about that a lot. And, hey, we want to leave a legacy. What's your legacy you want to leave? And those guys that came before us, it's very important to not only play for ourselves but play for them as well. So that's where I think homecoming, that's where the neatness of homecoming comes from.
University of Charleston is the opponent this week, another team that comes in with a winning record, a little harder to evaluate. Valpo had seen Truman State a year ago, and Truman State had played a PFL team. What can you tell us about University of Charleston?
Very athletic, have very, very good skill on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. They're throwing for about 370 yards a game, so they have a redshirt senior quarterback, grad transfer, and then they have the ability on the outside to get the ball to a lot of playmakers, and they have a 6'5", 220-pound receiver who's averaging 160 yards a game receiving. So that will challenge us. And then defensively, they do get into a 3-3 stack, and it's a little unique in terms of the front compared to we've played 4 down front, and so it'll present us some challenges just in terms of how you want to block that.
Charleston and Valpo, homecoming Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff. If you can't make it out to Brown Field, it will be broadcast on ESPN+. He's the head coach, Landon Fox. I'm Brandon Vickery. For all the latest in Valpo football, check out valpoathletics.com.